Watching from home. This morning we hear from our council-funded agencies, present their 6 monthly reports. So before I start, Kobe, I'll introduce actually 4 new councillors that you may not have met. On my right, we have Julie Moffat and Deb Gilkinson, and on my left we have Jeanette Maxwell. And I thought Phil was going to be here, but he's not here yet, so...
he's an apology.
Oh, it's an apology. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and we have an apology from Sarah Clifford today, and in her place is Kobe Snowden. So, Kobe, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, Sarah is in Auckland today with her role at the Refugee Settlement Service at SAFER. She is meeting 2 new refugee families who are about to settle into Ashburton. So you got me today. As some of you might know, I'm far more comfortable on a rifle range than in here, but I'll see how I go. So I'm the chair of the Mid-Canterbury Citizens Advice Bureau. So I'll briefly go through our 6 monthly report, talk about some highlights and some recent happenings in our service, and indeed some challenges as well. So for the 6 months to December, we've been very busy. Our numbers keep increasing. So in all the areas of phone, face-to-face, email, all our clients across all those areas are increasing. And if you look on the bottom of our report, and our budgeting service especially, 101 clients, that is a new service we started in May last year as a result of the cuts to what Presbyterian support used to be funded for, and the budget support is now only funded for 1 person at Salvation Army. It used to be 6 people at Presbyterian support. There's a huge need in our community for budget help. So we've set up these budgeting clinics. We have 2 or 3 volunteers totally devoted to those clinics that are run on Friday afternoons and Wednesday evenings here at the library. But there's more needed. We are currently training 6 more volunteers, especially for budgeting advice. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So for new councillors or anyone who's not aware, so we have quite an extensive database, and we log a lot of information for each of our inquiries, as well as writing up the issues and our advice given. We also capture information such as the category of inquiries, subcategories, the age and ethnicity of the clients, and also the time taken by our volunteers. And some interesting information comes out of these, and we can produce loads of graphs for you. So do let us know if you want more graphs in your reports rather than figures. I know I like graphs. So some interesting information for the 6 months to December. Most of the inquiries we received centred around legal and government questions, mostly around separation and dissolutions, but also a lot of immigration queries, and of course mostly from migrants. A lot of queries around tenancy and employment contracts. So those 4 areas take up most of our volunteers' time. And also these issues take up a lot of time. When you're talking about immigration, tenancy, there's a lot of legal stuff around that, and our volunteers have to spend a lot of time making sure they give the right information to the clients. We've helped a lot of migrant clients, mostly Afghan refugees. And again, they take a lot of time because there's also the language barrier. A lot of these queries means we have to contact translators. And again, a lot of these are around legal and government issues. Most of our contact is still face-to-face. 57% of clients were face-to-face coming into Community House. Then 32% is via phone, and then we also get some email queries as well. So moving on from actual clients to our profit and loss, although as a not-for-profit organisation, of course, we don't have profits, we have surplus. So I'll get that report changed. We're looking at a surplus of $17,891 to December, but of course it's a cash surplus at that date. It means grants that we've not yet spent. So when you look at the grants income, $49,000, that has got to last us to the end of June. There's a large amount showing under donations, $17,000. 10,000 of that was actually a fund we received from EA Networks Wellbeing Fund, and I'll get our treasurer to show a separate line for that. But we received a very generous donation of $7,000 from the Ashburton Networkers Group. They had a fundraising evening, I think it was speed dating, something like that, and $7,000 was amazing. And they stipulated that some of that money we had to use to celebrate ourselves. So I'll talk a little bit about that later too. At our last AGM, we appointed a new treasurer, Julie Copeland. She's amazing. And it's so great to have a qualified accountant on our board. So yeah, that's the profit and loss. We also have a budget here for the year that's showing a surplus of just over $3,000. That's for the year to the end of June. But, you know, anything can happen between now and then. So as for the rest of this year, our top priority is recruiting more volunteers. There's such a huge need for more volunteers on our daily service, but also the clinics, the budgeting clinic and immigration clinics. Recruiting new volunteers takes a lot of time because there's a lot of training involved. We're, like I said, 6 more volunteers for our budgeting service, but we've just got 4 new volunteers, and it's great to see volunteers coming from different ethnicities as well. So clinics. We've put a lot of resources into clinics where a group of people will come together to talk about issues such as immigration, IRD. We've got business clinics happening, and then, of course, the budgeting. The immigration clinic it's a monthly clinic, and it's just not enough. When migrants come to us, they're usually stressed, they need urgent help, and telling them, look, our next clinic is in 3 weeks' time is just not good enough. So we need more volunteers trained to handle immigration queries. So that's a top priority for us. We've identified a need for a KiwiSaver clinic. We get a lot of queries around KiwiSaver from individuals as well as new businesses. So let's start up a KiwiSaver clinic. Continue to promote our service to the Mid-Canterbury community, to businesses, community groups, support workers, professionals. We're continuing to collaborate with lots of other agencies, securing funding for ongoing operational costs. Our community directory, we've got one volunteer, a young chap called Nicholas, and he is working 2 mornings a week updating our community directory. It's a huge project and such a great service for our community. We've got CAB Awareness Week coming up in March. The Need Help booklet has been updated. It's a great resource for people who need help with organisations that can offer free help and all their contact information. And of course we've got our satellite service here at the library every Wednesday evening from 5:30 to 7:30. That's been very popular. Coming back to celebrating, in December we turned 5, which is a huge milestone. And what's more significant is that we have 6 volunteers who started on day 1, so who've been with us for 5 years. That's quite amazing. As I said, we received some funding from the Networkers Group to help us celebrate that. So we held a morning tea with cake and had lots of people come from different agencies, and it was great to network with them. We even had somebody come down from Wellington, from the Citizens Advice Bureau head office, national office, so that was really good. We've been involved in new ventures. Citizens Advice Bureau have been trialling a AI system, and we were one of, I think, 3 or 4 around New Zealand to trial this system, which went really well. So we were really highly regarded by National Office, Citizens Advice Bureau. What other notes have I got? Community directory, yes, we need more support to promote and update it. And Sarah does a lot of work. She does a lot of networking with all the other Citizens Advice Bureau around the country, and some of them, they come up with a really good idea that when they apply for funding from their councils, one of the questions was, are you on the community directory? And their council will not fund them if they're not. So that's an idea for you. And there was also a really good idea of having a big interactive screen, like at the library or EA networks maybe, where people can just tap in and search the directory for sports clubs or service providers around the district. Yeah. So that's all the notes. I would like to take this opportunity while Sarah's not here to really speak highly of her. She set up this bureau in this area, and like I said, to have 6 volunteers here since day 1 is really down to her. The way she manages the volunteers and the service, she's just marvellous. She's very, very involved with other communities, with the whole community of Mid Canterbury. She's now also on the COGS board. She does a lot of networking. And like I said, she's also working for the Refugee Settlement Service, and those two link really well together. Yeah. Any questions?
Thanks, Kobe. We do have some questions. First up, Councillor Moffat.
Good morning. When you were speaking about the budgeting clinics, do you have return visits? Do people need ongoing?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's not just, hey, I need help. Oh yeah, there you go. It's they actually have to come back. Yeah, it's, I don't know how many visits. Some may need more than others, but yeah.
And as far as the volunteers that you need, is there a particular area? Like, is it just that budgeting, or are there other skills that you need?
Across all, yeah. As you can imagine, our volunteer team are retired mostly. We do have a couple of younger people, but they're mostly retired people, and they have grandchildren, and they like to take long holidays. So although we have, I think, close to 20 volunteers, there's usually just only like 12 on the roster, because they tend to travel a lot, and yeah, and they also need breaks. And again, like I said, some of the issues are really, really taxing, and sometimes we get a volunteer saying, look, I just need a break for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Most volunteers are on weekly shifts, so that's 3 hours a week. Some actually do 2 shifts a week, and someone like me, I'm too busy in other areas. I just do fortnightly shifts.
So as far as the immigration and the immigrants are concerned, do you feel they're getting the adequate support in the community? I presume a lot of those queries are there around residency, that kind of thing, or?
It's around. I think for the like the refugee families, they want to get their family members here as well, and there's so much paperwork that I think to apply for a family member to come out, it's the form, I believe, is 27 pages, and some of the questions are really tough, so you need a translator to get their answers. Yeah.
And do you have to pay for a translator to do that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Russell.
Thank you. First of all, Kobe, I'd like to thank your organisation, the volunteers, for everything they do, the meagre 16,000 of ratepayer money that goes into it. The return for our community far exceeds the investment, so pass on our thanks on our behalf, thank you. But I was going to also touch on the interpreter thing. Just under your expenditure, I can't see a line there for the interpreters, because I assume that's quite an expensive...
Okay, I might be wrong there, that we don't actually have to pay. No, I thought we did. No. No. I'll check on that.
It could be under that additional cost, that 9,000 on the bottom line, I'm not sure, but...
No.
No.
Maybe we don't need to pay for those. I will check that.
Check that.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks. Hi, Kobe. Thanks for that update. That was really good. I'm really pleased that the satellite service downstairs is working well. What other hours are you operating?
So it's normally 10 to 1 at the community house.
5 days a week?
5 days a week, except every first Tuesday of the month we do training. We have a training day. Also, the budget service is on Friday afternoons as well.
Okay, so
At community house.
Yeah, so those extra workshops are sort of additional to your...
Yep. Yeah, we would love to be open for longer, but we need more volunteers.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Wednesday evening are great for people who just can't leave work to come and see us.
Bill.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Hi, Kobe. Thanks for the report. The community directory, is that easy to find?
Oh, yes.
And do people upload their details themselves and then you sort of check a box? And is there the ability to do that? I'm just thinking of workload for your person who shows up a couple of times a week and maybe streamlining.
We need
things
to
a
make
bit.
sure that the information is accurate.
Yeah, that's
and
why I
in
was
the
thinking you
same
just check it off
format.
at the end of the.
We do get people to check that it's still correct. Every 12 months, everyone gets an email saying, can you just check that the contact details are still correct? But we do need the one person to enter the new information. And that also gets checked at National Office.
Cool. So how do we go about finding it?
Oh, it's on...
It's actually on our council website. So if you search for community directory in our council website, it comes up. You click on it. It also goes to the citizen or the CAB website, and then so quite easy to find.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I think we're there, Kobe. So thanks very much for coming in and deputising, I suppose you could say, for Sarah. We appreciate the work that your group does. It's
Great,
very
thanks.
important to our community. So
And do let us know if you want more information. Like I said, I personally love graphs, so if you want graphs in your reports or any other information that's useful.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along.
Okay.
Is this thing on? Oh, this thing isn't. Mr. Chair, would you mind speaking into your microphone like this? Because I'm
Okay.
struggling to hear.
I'll get it closer.
Thank you.
How's that?
Wonderful.
It's nice to have you on board, Councillor. Okay, we're slightly ahead of time, but we can start the next session, which is with Safer Mid Canterbury, and Kevin, Leslie and Don, you're welcome along to the microphones at the table there. So since our last session, we do have 4 new councillors, which you may know or may not know, but can I introduce Julie Moffat and Deb Gilkinson on this side, and on the other side at the end there is Juliet Maxwell.
We've met Julie.
Oh, you have, of course you have, yeah. She's totally involved in your organisation, yeah, okay.
When she came along, before she came aboard, that one?
Yep.
Oh, good. Before she came along, you were there, Tony. Our board made a decision to tell her she had all these jobs. And when she turned up, we said, now you have to do this, Liz did this, and this. And she said yes to everything, so that was good.
And she has done that, has she?
I didn't realise this was a grill me session.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Chair, Mayor, councillors, staff, member, Tony. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come along today and present our 6-month report for the first 6 months of the financial year. The last 6 months have been, for the most part, quite stable and business as usual. The previous 18 months prior to that for our organisation saw quite a bit of change and uncertainty around government contracts and funding. When the new government came in, there were quite a few changes, and large amounts of contract funding being cut from services across the country. We were particularly affected ourselves by Rangatamariki funding cuts, where they moved around 30 million out of their community funding for the country. And this saw us lose one of our youth services and a family wellbeing service, and it also affected some other organisations in our community. 2 things of note that have happened in the last 6 months, though, were firstly the opportunity to increase our refugee health service team that we have for supporting refugees, and this is with the addition of a registered nurse. So there had previously been a nurse locally who was working with refugees. However, that person was employed by Pegasus Health in Christchurch. When this person left quite a while ago, the position remained vacant for quite some time. So, and then prior to the start of the last financial year, we were approached by Pegasus Health and asked if we would like to hold the contract locally to employ a registered nurse to support our refugees. So we said yes, of course, and we've now had a registered nurse in place for some months in our refugee team, which is working really well and complemented our other staff that work in the health team for refugees. We have, well, it was 2 people in the health team. We had 2 cultural navigators, the bilingual cultural navigators. So now we have a registered nurse. So that was a change in the last 6 months. The second opportunity that arose was around the school attendance service. And so we have held the school attendance contract through the Ministry of Education for over 2 decades. And it's always been a difficult contract to fulfil due to very low levels of funding. And so we always had one, it was our smallest contract, and it allowed for 1 part-time staff member. So it was quite a small contract. Under the previous government, there was increases in funding around attendance, as was seen as an important issue, and that allowed us to employ 2 staff. However, it was still a huge workload because we would get around 200 referrals a year. So 1 person dealing with 100 odd referrals is, you know, if you've got people with substantial issues, doesn't allow you to do much. If we look at, for example, we have other services that are more intensive. We might have 30 clients a year for a full-time staff member where they actually get the opportunity to work with them long enough to actually build relationships and make change. So, but as you may be aware, increasing student attendance is one of the current government's top 9 target priorities, and which has been driven by Minister Seymour. So I'm sure people have seen that sort of drive in that priority. As such, a significant evaluation of attendance services and attendance issues and service responses, school responses to attendance was carried out by the Ministry of Education, and that resulted in quite a large and complex report around the state of attendance in New Zealand, which was seen to be particularly bad, and especially comparatively against other Western countries was particularly bad. And so there was a big drive on re-looking at how that was done. So out of all this fell quite a new look attendance service that was put out for public tender last year. And Saferman Canterbury obviously put in for that tender. We know there was a lot of providers going for it. The contract was substantially bigger and more attractive, but we're sort of pleased to report that we were the successful provider after quite a lengthy process and presentations and interviews, so it was quite a big process. So the new service more than doubles our funding, with a contract now worth around $400,000 per annum, which is, if we go back 6 years, we had a contract worth about $60,000 with a part-time staff member, so you can see how a lot of emphasis has been put on getting young people back to school. So we've spent the last few months developing our new service. As part of it, they wanted innovation and things done slightly differently, and we had to write sort of plans on how we were going to do that after the tender process and submit those. And since then, we already had 2 staff, but we've employed 2 new staff. So we now have 4 staff working in that service, ready to kick into gear. Obviously, the school term is just starting, but we did have some referrals sitting there from last year to follow up on and ensure those young people sort of got to school this year. So a lot more resource. We've been told by the ministry to initially expect more referrals to come in, so they expect an increase in referrals to come in, as they've identified that there are young people eligible for referral that in the past had not been coming in. A key change is also around who will be referred. So previously young people were referred for non-enrolment, and so non-enrolment is for a young person who has been out of school for 20 consecutive days, and they sort of, it triggers a system that they become non-enrolled, which triggers a certain piece of work. Sometimes that is people who are living locally, but quite often it can also be transient people that have left one area and moved to another and have not re-enrolled their children into school. So once that 20-day mark hits, it triggers that. And the other one was for unjustified absence, was what used to happen. That means a young person could be missing from school, but if it was deemed justified, they were not referred to any kind of service. So now they've changed that completely, and now they're referring to that absence as chronic absence, which means whether or not it's justified, whether or not you've taken your child to Rarotonga for 3 weeks, it'll be referred if you sort of hit that thing. So all chronic absence, and of course, young people who have wellness issues and who are unwell. In the past, if the school said, well, that's a justified absence because you're not well, then it didn't get referred anywhere. Now it's chronic absence regardless. So those young people will be referred to our service, and whether or not it's theoretically justified. And so the criteria for that now, and of course in the past one of the issues was that we would get referrals for young people that might have been out of school for a year or might have been attending at 30-40%. Now they're really setting that as the trigger is at 70% attendance. It sets a trigger, but it's done per term. So as soon as a young person misses 15 days in any one term, not consecutive, but just any 15 days, that triggers a referral to the attendance service. So time will tell what that means for referral numbers, but we'll be able to report on that in the next 6 months. I've talked quite a bit about this because it probably is the biggest change in contracting. It's the only place where our government has probably put significant amounts of money to make a change. But, the data that come out of the report, if you're on the MOE website, it sits on the front page, is quite damning that we have a country that has very significant numbers of people not attending school enough to get NCA level 1, so or whatever new things might be. And so the data tells them when somebody falls below 70%, the chances of a qualification is almost nil. So, and it's quite bad. So, as the refugee service is a large service for us, it's also worth touching on and how things are progressing here. We're now in our second year of referrals coming in at sort of contracted volumes, and so our contract sits between about 105 and 115. That's where they sit per annum for individuals who come in. Obviously, when we first got the contract in 2020, we had COVID, and so for about the first 4 years, numbers were a lot lower than were originally anticipated within the contract, but now they've sort of packed up to being quite steady. Whilst things continue to tick along quite nicely, and we don't have any, or never had any significant issues, one thing that is causing a little concern is the number of families choosing to relocate and move predominantly to Auckland. And whilst there's always a pull to the city, particularly for young people from small communities, and some of our refugees have left to take up tertiary study, and it's common that if you've got we've had a number of young girls that are going to tertiary study, and it's within the culture it's not appropriate for that young girl to go on their own, so the family will relocate to the city, so that's just things that happen. But even though that, we have identified a few or 3 issues really that are leading people to say, I'm not getting quite the level of support I'd like in this community to fully settle. So one is English language lessons, and particularly from level 3 up. And so if people are wanting to engage in employment and other aspects of life, it's sort of, you're getting up to that level 4, 5, 6 to sort of be quite fluent. And we had worked very hard with ADA for quite some time and put things in place. We had quite a few people signed up with ADA to level 3 and above, but when they pulled out, it's kind of left a pretty significant gap in our community, and that makes it very hard for people who don't have much English to get the education they need to a level to get meaningful jobs. We have a lot of people who are quite skilled people and have knowledge and have worked in various workplaces, but without that language, it sort of restricts them. So, so that's quite a significant issue. There is the option for people to travel to Christchurch, but if you've got a person with a family and you're asking them to get on a bus at 6 in the morning and get home at 6, and it's a completely impractical option. and we do have a number of solo parent families as well. So of course it's not even an option if you're a solo parent. The second is employment. There is a contracted service to support refugees into employment. And this is a vital service to support them into employment. Whilst Safe Canterbury has a contract to settle refugees, the contract for employment under MST sits with another provider, which is the Red Cross. Unfortunately, this service is based in Christchurch, and so we sort of get irregular visits to Ashburton, as little as once a fortnight, and we had a meeting last week and discovered that currently the Red Cross is supporting 4 people in our community on a pathway to employment, which is, when you look at the numbers, pretty poor. So there's a bit of we've got a community where there are jobs. There can be struggles, but we do have the lowest unemployment in the country still, and there are opportunities, and we've got a provider who really isn't taking people on that pathway. So that's a bit of an issue, and we're working on that, but it's a difficult one to work on. It's easy when a large national provider has a contract to simply base themselves in the city and support the city, and you'll all be familiar with sort of the poor cousin scenario that they don't travel down the road and support you when they're based in Christchurch. The third is driver licensing, and that's also quite an important one for people's mobility, able to get to work or even make people employable, because in a lot of jobs you want somebody with a driver's license. There is a provider supporting refugee driver licensing, but they can take 20 people a year, and as you'd imagine, when we've got 40 to 50 adults coming in, and by adults I'm also including those children who are old enough to get their licence, those older kids, and so that sort of falls short of being able to support us, but the provider has just informed us that their contract comes to an end on 30 June and they've been told it's not going to be renewed, and so they've stopped taking referrals. So as I'm sure you'll appreciate, these gaps make it very hard for people to settle, to engage, to get employment, to be part of local life. So and so you can see the draw to a larger centre that might have better access to education, training, employment services and licensing support. So, we're of course working with providers on this, we're advocating for our clients, we're finding other things we can do, but that's just to highlight some of the gaps that exist in our community. And whilst I'm talking about refugees here, that obviously harms all people in our community who are looking for those kinds of supports. So, yeah, and I think probably the biggest one was ARDA pulling out, which has made the most significant difference for our community. But I'm sure the council's well aware of that and the impact of that right across our community. On a positive note, I've been working with a group of refugees on establishing a trust. This will be a trust to support former refugees run by refugees, and it will provide the opportunity for the Afghan community to establish their own support systems, initiatives, cultural events, etc. You'll be familiar that there are many trusts around for different ethnic groups where they do a lot of things for themselves, and that's what we're hoping will come here. It will allow people to sort of be in charge of their own lives and do things for themselves. So that's quite good. As part of Safe Canterbury work, we're also always looking for ways to address gaps in the community. So it's become clear that our community has some significant gaps around youth services, and I'd already mentioned that our organisation had lost its youth service through Oranga Tamariki cuts, but we're not the only organisation to have lost youth services due to cuts in mid-Canterbury. So, and quite a number of young people were referred to these services that have been lost. Probably we're talking around 60 to 70 per annum, young people that were struggling and parents were looking for support and guidance. And so there are some services left, the main ones sort of being more around addiction and mental health, but these were general services for what you'd call low-level mental health or behavioural issues, etc. Or just, anybody who's had children will know that you're always looking for supports and trying to find help, and so our community is more poorly served than we were 2 years ago around this. So we've had organisations approach us as well and ask if we can provide support for young people continually, and we've sort of had to turn them away due to the loss of services. So we're aware that various ministries, including Oranga Tamariki, are in the process and telling us that they're working on future investments in social services for young people and for families, and they've stated that they'll be looking at for data evidence of where to put those investments, into the next financial year. Of course, it's an election year, so it's a good year to have new funding and things like that, which is always good to capitalise on. But we're also aware that other communities have been doing a lot of work to pull together evidence, to get data and present this so that their communities are able to say, look, our community has need, etc. As it sits now in the Ashburton district, we don't particularly have anything that we could put on the table apart from anecdotal evidence gathered through different agencies just talking together. So for this reason, Safe from Canterbury's decided to carry out a research project across the district to ascertain what services currently exist, and as part of that, what regional providers are funded to provide to our community, so we can see if that's been provided, and it really just to do a service mapping of youth services. From there, we'll be looking to ascertain what gaps there are in service provision, the level of need in the community, and any barriers to those services. And finally, the report will seek to identify services that would address the gaps and propose sort of ready-to-fund costed services. We're contracting Sarah Wiley to conduct this research, which will commence later in this month. And Sarah has carried out quite a number of research projects. Some people might be familiar with her. And in the community, I think her most recent was supporting the older person strategy and writing that, and she's been involved with transport and all sorts of things in this community, so knows it well. So in regard to funding, just moving on, things continue to remain quite steady in this space. We had an income of 1,956,000 excluding GST for the first 6 months of the year, and so maintaining a good return on council's investment. Whilst this is an increase of about 240 from this time last year, the increase in money particularly has to do with the food rescue service that we are, I suppose, supporting and umbrellaing, and that's about the additional money was for that, pretty much on par. We took over as an umbrella organisation for the food rescue service in January 2024, when their parent organisation found themselves in financial trouble, and I've reported on the food rescue here before, but the new councillors wouldn't have heard about that. And so just to cover it, the food rescue service was in existence in Ashburton and Timaru, and it sat under a Christchurch organisation that got in financial trouble. So we picked up umbrellaing that so it could maintain its work in Ashburton and Timaru, and so it does 3 days in Timaru and 2 days in Ashburton, and collects around 130 tonnes of food a year and redistributes across the two areas. So, it's quite good. Really small, and it costs us about $1.67 to distribute 1 kg of food to people, so it's great, rather than food going into waste. Anyway, it was always the intention to set up a new trust for that food rescue service, which we've now done, and the funding we held in trust to deliver the service will now move to that new trust. Safe from Canterbury is going to maintain an involvement with the food rescue service, as we've been contracted to just see the overall day-to-day management, and we will be employing the staff and just ensuring the smooth running of it. So, but it will have a trust in its own right that raises funding for it. Taking away the additional 240,000 that sits with food rescue, we're still at a similar level of funding for last year, despite some of the losses in our services from Oranga Tamariki. But this was made up in increases in funding from other services like our registered nurse, etc. So quite stable. Looking forward, we'll see increasing funding through the new attendance contract in the year coming ahead. And we also have a couple of other projects in the pipeline that we can't talk about publicly at the moment because we're sort of competing for them, but if they come to fruition, then we'll have a little bit more money for some other projects, so we'll see what happens there. We want to take the opportunity to also thank the Council for its ongoing investment in our organisation and the work we do. Council funding provides our base funding and a strong catalyst for attracting other funding into our district. We're very proud to be able to attract significant amounts of funding into our district from central government and from outside the district. Money that would not otherwise see and flow into our community. And we're also proud to be able to provide employment for 40 staff within our organisation. Our main source of pride comes from being able to support large numbers of people in our community to lead better lives, and something we could not do without the significant support provided by Council. In closing, I just wanted to acknowledge our staff who work tirelessly and probably not that well paid to bring about change for the people in our community, and our board as well, who oversees the health of our organisation and provides support to me as the General Manager. I want to particularly thank Liz McMillan for her time on our board and the support she has given, and for picking up the governance of the Safe Community Initiative as well, and supporting Leslie. Liz did a huge amount of work there, and it's thanks to her and Leslie together, it has been an incredibly successful project. And so, yeah, just wish her all the best, and we miss her on our board, but we'd also just like to welcome our new board member, Julie Moffat, who's come on, and I've said here she's happily put her hand up to support everything we've asked of her. And so we've got her on a few other different boards, and she's also now taken on the chairmanship of the Safe Communities as Liz has stepped aside. So, yeah, I'm happy to take any questions or hand over to Leslie and do questions after Leslie's talked about hers, just
I
whatever
think
suits.
if we handle any questions with you, Kevin, first, and then we'll go to Leslie after that. So we do have Carolyn.
Thank you, Kevin. I can't believe, well, I can believe, but it's amazing the contribution your organisation contributes to the community. Absolutely amazing. I have a question with regards to the school and the absenteeism and the truancy. And sort of a general knowledge question for me, really. Where does a health school fit into all that? You know, because I went to the health school opening a wee while ago, and they have kids there that go to school that may have been out of mainstream school for a while. How does that, the link between the truancy and the health school work together?
Well, I suppose traditionally, because we had people who were unjustified absence, if it was a health reason, it was justified, so we would not see them through our service, and the school would refer directly to the health school and to support them.
So you wouldn't have
but now we're under the new service. We actually had a meeting with the health school staff on Monday, and sort of with all of their staff and our new team looking at that, and so we anticipate that we will get referrals for young people who have health issues, and so we will refer directly to the health school, and so we'll be working in partnership around that. There's a lot of new things in the new contract around having to write back to school plans for young people, and so we'll be involved in writing back to school plans, as well as the school that they might go back to will be involved in that plan. And if they're involved with the house school will be part of that plan as well. So it'll probably tie in a lot more than it used to. Yeah.
It's a lot more complex, isn't it, than kids just taking a day off to go and kick a soccer ball or something. So
Yes, yeah, we're not talking.
yeah.
We're talking quite significant absence, and so it's very hard to get young people back into school with significant absence.
Yeah.
We're possibly talking families who are need support, or partly because they're struggling, or we certainly have families that say, "Please help us. We don't know what we're struggling."
Yeah.
So
I understand that. The other question I have is around the refugee service that your organisation oversees. The first thing is the ESOL, and we've all railed about the lack of the ARA pulling out. We've all around here we're very disappointed in that. How do we address that? Because it's a clear group in our community that we can identify the issue. We can see what the problem is. How do we fix that? Do we write more letters? It's not the refugee services business, is it? It's more ARA or...
Yes, well, we're advocating, but I mean, if you want a tertiary provider in your community and it's pulled out, I don't know, it's
appalling, really.
Dare I say, it's probably led by a mayor, and it's probably hauling the MP over getting the MP in, and just
we've got a list
it's
of
a big
things
issue
for
for
the
the community, I think,
We've got
not
a big
having a
list for the
tertiary
MP.
provider.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But thank you. I'll stop there. But
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Carolyn. Julie.
Hello. I also had a question about the absenteeism, which Carolyn has kind of gone on to. But if a child or a young person is absent from school regularly because of, say, a chronic illness, do they just keep appearing even though it's known that they have a chronic illness? Or they eventually have a chronic illness, come off so they're not constantly referred? You know what I mean?
So the new service is still to be tested because it's brand new, and I would say that the ministry is kind of flying the plane as they're building it, because there's a huge amount of information coming out every week around how it's to work. But it's a huge change, so that'll be why there's a lot happening. So we theoretically now will get the referrals for people with chronic illness, because it's about chronic absence. And then if there is indeed a chronic illness, then that's where we're likely to refer to the health school, and then likely to close it if there's nothing we can see our service can do. Sometimes the illness may not be addressed, and that's where we can advocate and make a plan to get things addressed. So our back to school plan isn't just let's get them back to school. It's like, let's address all of the issues that exist for this young person and this family, and we might be working them for 6 months to get them the right supports. So if it's already been addressed, we'll pass it on and we'll close it. But if it's not, then we can sit there and try and address it. So it's still to be tested and see exactly how that works.
Yeah, because I think it's quite stressful for parents if they're. It's not that they're bad parents and not letting their kids go to school, you know, and they're on the radar like that, you know.
Well, it's really important to realise that our service is not a statutory service that is attempting to push people into school. The service is very much a social service that's attempting to find out what the stresses are and what the barriers are, and then to put the right supports in place. So it shouldn't be stressful. It should actually be. So 90% of the parents we deal with in any setting say, I just want someone to help us. Can you just help us? And we're there just to help. So I actually don't think it will be necessarily stressful for parents. I think it will be additional support, additional people wrapped around them, additional people to advocate for them. So I think it'll be positive rather than negative. Dare I say, when the Minister first came out with this proposal for the new look attendance service, I have to say the media jumped on prosecutions and made a big deal about being punitive to parents. And I have to say, looking at the contracts and all the information we've had, it's hardly mentioned. It's all about support. It's all about taking people on a journey. It's all about removing barriers. It's not punitive at all, and it will only get punitive at a stage where we get parents who there are no issues that we can address and they just refuse. Like, we have a couple of parents now who are common law and don't believe they should have to send their children to school. So that's where it might get punitive, but certainly not the ones that are struggling with young people that have any kind of issue. It'll be 100% supportive. Yeah.
One more question, and it's about something I can't remember which report I saw it on, but I saw that the senior people accessing services went from 44 to over 100, I think it was. Do you know what the main drivers are behind that?
The main driver is simply that 18 months ago we took over the senior citizen service, and now sits within our organisation. And so in the first year we were developing it and it wasn't a full year, and the second year we had a full year fully developed. So it's just simply that. It's not because there's greater need. We've just built it up to the ability to provide more support for the need. Yeah.
Yes, Julie Millers.
Thank you. I was just going to say thank you for those kind words. I think I started on the Safe and Canterbury board the same time I became a councillor, so about 9 years ago, and enjoyed my time, and especially with Safe Communities and getting that up and running as well. I do have a question though. The refugee resettlement families that are coming out, I know there was sort of a switch where you got more families that had younger children, so they would kind of be, well, not easier, but they would integrate into the Ashburton community a bit more. Is that still the case, or are you still getting a mixture?
Yes, so we had discussions around that, because the people that tend to leave tend to have teenage or young adult children, which is natural, and particularly the young girls wanting to find a partner. There's not a lot of scope when you're in a town like Ashburton when you don't have a community of much size. And so we did talk to them about that, and we did sort of start to get younger families, which tend to settle into school, and those families, just integrated in the community really well, because a school's a great medium when you've got children to fit into a community. But we do, they can only distribute the families of the people they have, and so we still are getting some with older and adult children, And so we've had a few families leave because the young people have gone off to university, of that age, and so the families have followed them. So still a bit of that. So I think they can only distribute the families they've actually got, and they do get a lot of families with teenage and young adult children. So
Fair enough. And just regarding ARA, I mean, it's come up in our settlement meetings, and I think we've got another one of those meetings at the end of March. So, happy to help work in with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ARA was obviously a key, the organisation that was going to deliver level 3 and above English lessons for refugees. But obviously they were able to deliver those to migrants as well that were looking for more support. But just, they did large numbers of other sorts of things in our community for the general population as well that doesn't exist. So I think it's a pretty significant loss to have a community of our size and not have any kind of tertiary provider. So, yeah.
I don't want to stifle question times. I'm just looking at the time before we go to Leslie. So 2 more quick questions, please, Phil. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. G'day, Kevin. Will you pitch for the Pathway to Employment program that the Red Cross out of Christchurch currently run?
I was wondering if I'd get that question. Let me say that if we were to pitch for a program against another provider, I wouldn't mention it. I'd keep it confidential. And secondly, I'll say that I leave no stone unturned. So,
good luck.
Take what you can from that. Jeanette.
Just a quick question. Well, a couple actually. What's the target age for referral for absence from school?
So it's 5 to 16.
Is 5.
Any young person that should be in school. It might be 6 because legally you have to be in school at 6. So 6 to 16. Yeah.
Okay. And my second question is after hearing and reading a couple of news articles that of our literally starting school very deficient in some skills. How do you know when the 6-year-old hasn't been enrolled, like they've never been in school?
That's problematic if they've never been enrolled. Yeah, and so that is problematic. So, the ministry has staff and mechanisms that try to find that. So, for non-enrolment, where people are sort of moving around or haven't enrolled before, then the ministry has people that looks at that. I'm not sure exactly how they do it. I do know that the ministry has a lot more capacity itself to do that work under the new look attendance service, and schools have more capacity as well. So, yeah, but as you say, if nobody knows the family and their child's turned 6, then it could be a tricky one. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for your report. What number was this, your report? You're up to?
123.
Well, for the first 16 years, I came here we used to come here 3 times a year. And then it dropped to 2 times a year because we would put our plan as part of that normally. But, so probably, I don't know, we must be. I did count them last time.
You did? Yeah.
Okay. We're probably sitting about 60 or 70 times I've presented to council.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin.
Just one more thing. You should add up all your funding that you've obtained for the community and let us know.
I'll do that next time.
That would be outstanding. Yeah.
We'll do that next time.
Thank you. Leslie, welcome.
Thank you.
Safe Communities. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about the Little Safe Communities program, which gets very confusing for people because we're Safer Mid Canterbury, Safe Communities, safety. So this is one program of Safer Mid Canterbury, and the program's for the benefit of new councillors, been going for about 6 years, and was initially instituted at the request of council, who asked for Safe Communities accreditation to be sought nationally. Unfortunately, that national movement's kind of died a death, but we've carried on here, and a lot of areas have carried on with the remnants of their Safe Communities programs, and I think that's because they're rooted in the local community that they've survived. So our program, Safe Communities, safety's got a very broad definition with our program, and we started out by looking at what did the data tell us from ACC, from road safety, from health, and we came out with some key focuses that other networks weren't already working on, because we didn't want to replicate the work of the family violence network, the suicide prevention work that PUP does. We don't want to get in there and replicate that, so we dovetailed into what we thought were key things that the data and the community were telling us were issues for them around their safety. And interestingly, one of the first ones actually was the lack of a Citizens Advice Bureau. So we did do quite a bit of work. It took us about 2 years just doing the legwork to get that Citizens Advice Bureau set up, because if you don't have good information, you can be really at risk. And we had a lot of families saying, you know, we've got suicidal young people and we don't know where to go, and there's no decent directory that's up to date, and we don't know how to access it. So that was one of the things we did, which people would think safety, but yes, it is about safety. So we settled into some things that were of issues to the community. One is the fact that we don't have a public transport service out here, and we've got a lot of people rurally located who need to get into Ashburton Township, because everything is here, the banks, the hospital, medical appointments, often family relocating, older people coming into retirement, living here, leaving the smaller towns. So we set up the Connected Community Transport Service, and that's been going along really nicely. I think the first year we did about 36 trips, now we're doing about 200 in a year, and that's growing quite nicely, and that's with volunteer drivers. So we've got a lovely little bunch of drivers who've been going along with us on that journey for a long time now. Falls and older people was a big one, and there was a real demand from probably about a dozen agencies to get together and start looking at the issue of falls. So we've been doing quite a lot of promotion of local strength and balance classes, which are approved classes that help people to keep mobile and keep active. And interestingly, St John have just come out with some national research bemoaning and concerned about the fact that a huge majority of their calls, ambulance calls, are for falls, and they are, you know, eminently preventable if people are safe in their homes and if they are keeping physically active. So it was a good message to us that the work that we're doing in that little group is important. Another big piece of work we've taken on over the last few months is the development of an age-friendly strategy and action plan, and that's around looking at how age-friendly is Ashburton District, what are the great things about being an older person living in our district, and what are the things that are of concern to the over 65s. And we also have done quite a bit of work on scams and fraud, and you know, interestingly, 6 years ago that wasn't even an issue, and that whole issue around technology, and you never heard of any of this bank scams. It's just proliferated internationally, and of course we're no slouch in terms of our people being affected as well. And then we are dithering a little bit in the road safety area because of the Bike Skills Park, but the Road Safety Coordinating Committee does do all its own work, and they do road safety promotion, but we have picked up the Bike Skills Park. So as I say, we try not to replicate what other networks are doing, and we try to keep our ears to the ground so that we hear what's going on in terms of issues of concern, and then try and work in some work around that. So what did we do over the last 6 months? So the business plan report is, I think, in your paperwork. We had around 20 agencies working collaboratively on the types of projects that I've mentioned. And for your investment of, I think it's 55,000, we managed to generate another 161,000 into this community for projects. So we're sort of showing our worth, I think, there, and that we've got the ability to pull that funding in using the mechanism of the Safe Communities program. So the key things that we did in the 6 months, the Tarbotton Ride Smart Park, I actually got it out without, it's quite a difficult one to say. The Tarbotton Ride Smart Park is coming along leaps and bounds, and we were really thrilled to be able to sign a partnership with Tarbotton Land and Civil in December, who are coming on board as a major partner, major contributor, and bringing on board their suppliers. And we're hoping that will enable us to get that project moving a lot earlier than we thought. We've done some good fundraising. We've gotten in another 140,000 in the last 6 months, and we've got 2 more funding applications pending. So we're hoping to start that in March, and we have a meeting of that group next week. We've got some people around the table here who are on that group as well. Connector, as I say, numbers going up. Nice little Lion Foundation contribution enabled us to upgrade our vehicle for Ashburton, which is a lovely little vehicle, and we also got some COGS money in to pay our coordinator. One of our volunteer drivers has now taken up a paid role, so that's provided him with a little bit of part-time employment, and he does the bookings, he organises the drivers, he's now the treasurer, and it's great to be able to have money to actually pay him for that work, and he does a stunning job. We did a Falls Expo at the EA Network Centre in beginning of October, and we had around a dozen agencies there. We love the EA Network Centre. That's going to be our new home, and we are going to extend the focus broader next time. So we've had very much been promoting falls prevention, and we're going to broaden it to home safety and well-being. So because a lot of people are asking, well, where's this? Why isn't this agency here? Why isn't that agency here? So we're really happy with that. And age friendly, as I say, a huge piece of research was done by Sarah Wiley on behalf of our group in August, I think it was, and massive uptake by people over 65. The key issue that came out over and over and over again, lack of public transport. People want to be able to be involved in the community, but once they don't drive anymore, they can't drive. They're really limited by being able to, not being able to get public transport, not being able to access activities, and also not being able to link up with key services that they require. So that one, we're now planning which councillors will all get an invitation to, we're planning a one-day workshop, probably early March, again with Sarah Wiley, where we're going to run through, here are all the key issues that have come up, what can we do about them, pragmatically, an action plan, and who wants to be involved. And that will become our plan moving forward, that I hope that a lot of agencies will be able to contribute to. So that's probably about it. Thanks again to Liz for her work. She's been involved in every single thing for the last 6 years, but we do welcome Julie on board, and we had our first meeting last Friday, which was a whiz-bang meeting with a hell of a lot of information, and Carolyn Cameron was there as well. So we're off for 2026 with our new chair, but welcoming anyone around the table who ever wants to come along to one of those meetings, do let me know, and you're very welcome. So has anyone got any questions for me? I've run out of spit.
That's right. You've done well, Leslie. I'll let you have a breather for a sec. We do have a question. We do have a question from Richard.
It's to do with the Mid-Canterbury Vehicle Trust. I'd like to probably just acknowledge the good work that Kevin, I'm sorry if I get the name, Sissos, is that how you say it? Sisson, sorry, yeah. From Rakai did. Kevin passed away earlier in the year, but he was a big advocate for the Vehicle Trust and sorely missed from Rakai. So I see he's also, in his will, he bequeathed the sum of 20,000, so
yes,
it needs to be acknowledged. Yep.
Yes, I did meant to mention that. He's a huge loss. We're really feeling it because he also kind of coordinated the Rakai part of the service, because the Rakai Community Association have a vehicle that we use, and we go Rakai up to Medvin, pick people up, bring them into Ashburton for the day, take them home, drop the car back and garage it in Rakai, and the service is kind of falling apart without Kevin, but we'll put some new things in place. So yes, he was also our very first driver for months and months when we first started. He was the only driver we had, and he used to come down, pick up the van, which we had the community house van, drive all around the district, bring it back, and then drive himself back to Rakai again. He did that for months. So yes, wonderful man.
Very good. Thanks, Leslie. Any further questions to Leslie? Excellent. Don, did you want to say anything?
If I can have a minute, Tony.
You just need the microphone, mate.
Kia ora tātou. Thanks, Tony. Just a couple of things. Firstly, I want to echo the comments about support from Council. A number of you around the table are experienced with Safer Mid-Canterbury. we've mentioned that Julie's joined us. We've also got a new board member, Diane Prendergast, who's the principal of Borough School. So we'll get a bit of background on that whole attendance stuff from a professional point of view, as well as helping to run the board. But that support from council is terrific, and it's what enables us to do what we do. I think those of you who are new around the council table will have realised some of the range of activities and services that we provide, and the number of dollars that go with that come into this community. And so really my tribute is to the people who actually expedite this. We at the board level manage monthly meetings and supervise accounts and those sorts of things, but the groundwork is done by the people in the service, starting with Kevin, and I never fail to be amazed by the amount of information he's got at hand, and his ability to manage 1,500 juggling acts at once. So I want to pay tribute to him. Leslie, likewise, you've just heard from. There's an awful lot of stuff going on with the Safer Communities. These people keep on top of all of that in an amazing way, supported by a whole lot of staff who are parts of the tentacles of the operation. So my final word is to pay tribute to the people in this community who do what they do. Some of them are paid, many of them are not, but they do a bloody good job.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Kevin and Leslie, for coming along. We'll now take a break, which will be a bit shorter than what you would have normally had, and we'll come back. Thank you. for our third session, and we have the Ashburton Performing Arts Theatre Trust, and we welcome Roger Farr and Jim Lishner. Gentlemen, just to introduce you to our new councillors you may not know, on our right here is Julie Moffat and Deb Gilkinson, and on the left of the far end is Jeanette Maxwell. So, it's in your hands, boys. Go for it. The right-hand one. If you move the mic quite close to you, so we
testing.
Then move the whole thing towards you.
Okay, thank you very much. So just bringing up to date with where we're at as far as the event centre goes. I think the report we've put out pretty much explains where we're at. I won't go into too much detail from there. Just highlighting some of the information that is in that report. The first 6 months, 25-26 financial year, it's been seen a promising return of touring performances to the venue. The touring promoters have certainly come back on board. There's a lot more of them out there, newer ones that we haven't seen before, and the approaches that we've had from them as far as coming to the venue, looking at dates for potential performances and tours through the South Island is looking quite strong again, which is all very good as far as the booking calendar goes. Very happy with that side of it. There is a wee bit of concern towards the end of the last 6 months. Up to December ticket sales were down quite a bit, which is probably the economy. There was a few disappointed promoters at the end of that period. We do all we can to support them as far as those events that aren't selling well. We do have quite a good marketing arm attached to the venue, and we do subsidise some of the, for those events that aren't selling well, we do put money in and support them in selling their event. There's a spin-off both ways for us. It's not always nice to have a full venue. So it's a win-win situation really, basically, when we do that sort of thing. So the O'Reilly Auditorium itself increased the number of hire days for that 6 month period, July through to December, from 120 in 2024 through to 160 in 2025. So it was quite a significant increase for the auditorium. Unfortunately, the other areas of the venue, Bradford Room, Wooden Foyer and Green Room, have remained pretty static. They're mainly corporate events. That area of the market is still very difficult to attract. There's a lot of venues in town now offering office space and that sort of thing, meeting spaces. It has been difficult to try and attract corporate events into the event centre. When you look ahead, I think we are in a very good position. I'm quite confident with the way the booking calendar is looking for this coming 12-month period. There's a significant increase there in the events that we're doing. Probably the only quieter one is community, which is a bit unusual. Over the last probably 8-9 years, the community events have been the strongest performer. But in the last 6 months, they actually dropped back notably. It's probably, again, a sign of the times. Community organisations, like everyone, is probably struggling for money, and the events that they're willing to put forward are not there. I don't think it'll be a long-term thing, but it was quite interesting to see that had pulled back quite a bit. Making up the difference is the number of school events that we're doing. That's increasing all the time. There's a lot of schools now looking to us for hosting annual performance events. Most of them do their end of year school assemblies with us. So it's quite a strong booking for us having those schools on board. And what I like about having the schools with their performance events is we can work alongside them quite well in training aspects. They have a lot of students that are interested in the technical side, not so much the performance side, and we'll work alongside those guys and get them on board as, you know, interested in that side of the or that aspect of the performing arts. The big spin-off of that is a lot of them actually come back and will help out with other events that we do at the event centre. So it's a nice relationship to be working on, having those kids come through the schools and then into the community events, helping out. As I said before, the ticket sales, they haven't been as good as what we would have expected for the number of events that we've had. Some of the events are doing better than what you'd think. It's a very confusing thing, but overall ticket sales were definitely down, but there's certainly events there that if you have the right event and it's priced correctly or priced sufficiently for the, you know, for the public, they do work. Unfortunately, the costs for some of these events are getting very expensive, and it's through no fault of anyone. It's performance rights, it's royalties, it's that sort of thing that have increased, and it is pushing the prices, ticket prices up quite significantly. Advertising costs, or when you look at the financial side of the business, income has been strong. Expenses have also increased quite considerably, and everyone will be familiar with the usuals. It's the insurance, it's the rates, it's the electricity costs. The big player at the moment is our maintenance. The buildings are of an age now where a lot of the maintenance, the maintenance that's required is quite significant, with costs associated. We're talking about air conditioning units, lighting systems, that sort of thing, and there's significant costs in having those things upgraded and fixed. But overall, it has been a very satisfactory trading period. Very good progress made in the fundraising for our funding for our future campaign. We've actually reached probably the halfway mark. We're actually targeting raising $1 million, and we have just surpassed the halfway mark, which is very nice. The most exciting part of that is, as we speak, there's the new sound systems being installed, and I just can't wait to push the go button on that one, but it looks fantastic. It's very discreet, but very big. So yeah, it's well underway having that side of it done. The other thing they're doing at the moment is installing all the networking cables for the next stage of the upgrade, which is installing the brains that make the venue more easy to operate. Probably very much like what you've got here with the wall panels. You can adjust air conditioning, you can turn the projector on. All that side of it is being upgraded just to make it more user friendly and to try and cut down on the labour cost. One of the big problems we have is managing the hours that our technicians work. If you can imagine a venue, it's open, basically able to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 2 technicians. So the more we can cut down on the labour side of some of the operations that we do through technology, the better it is for managing what they're having to, or manage the hours that they're having to do. So that's basically in that priority 2 or 1A of that upgrade that we're planning, and I think we were sitting at the moment, there's an application being sought for the funding. If that goes ahead, we would look to have that priority 1A completed by the end of June. which will be a major milestone, in the upgrade program. Following on from that, would be looking at the aesthetics of the venue. That's painting, carpets, wall covering, seating, and working through the funding for that. It is hoped to use the funds that the council has set aside for that portion of the upgrade. I think it's important that, from a public point of view, walking into the venue, that it still looks like a nice venue to come into, and it's well maintained and up to date as far as the look of it goes and the comfort of it. And that's probably about it, really, as far as that goes. It's the other thing I'd quite like to do is, with the new councillors on board now, is invite the council to come and have a look through the venue. We might even put a cup of tea and a cake on. But yeah, just an invitation to the council to come through and have a look through the venue, see what the upgrades are what upgrades are needed, and where we're at as far as the upgrades to date are progressing. I think it's always what I always find it interesting going into the theatres like that and seeing the back half of the theatre that you don't normally get to see as as the public. So yeah, it's just an open invitation. I'm sure our people can talk to your people and make something happen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just to give you a brief overview of the finance, which Roger has covered most of it, our turnover was down 60,000, which he alluded to the fact that we probably didn't get the bookings we wanted, and that pushed it down. But they're looking good going forward, as he mentioned. We've got a lot larger booking coming in the first 6 months of this financial year. Again, our expenses were 60,000 higher, which wasn't a good result. But that, again, is because of things like insurance. Now, just an example, we were talking insurance at a meeting the other day. Our insurance is $120,000 a year now, and we can't get that down. Our rates, our power's gone up. I won't mention the rates when I'm in this room. But repairs and maintenance has really excessively gone up a lot for us. With things like the pigeons are still creating a real issue. We're even getting pigeon dropping in the ducting of the air conditioning now. It's going down there, so it's creating us a real issue, and that we have to get it cleaned quite frequently now, and that's at a real expense. We're actually also experiencing some leaks in the building now, which, I shouldn't say typically Bradford's, but they're renowned for having leaking buildings, but we're certainly getting a lot of leaks. And water damage. We're getting water damage from some of this prevalent rain we're getting at the moment. But overall, the result was a break even, you could say. This is the first year we couldn't claim back depreciation as an expense, and so that showed a loss of $55,000 for the year. The depreciation, whilst we were a little bit worried we've got no funding for depreciation, we think that the fund that you're putting away, $40,000 a year, that we believe is our depreciation fund, which we can utilise for the future if we need to do that. One of the things we're trying to do is encouraging groups, local groups, to come and see through the venue like yourselves. And Roger's come up with a scheme now. He gets us to go and speak at certain service clubs or certain organisations. So what we're doing now is we're saying, come and see us, we'll put the meal on and we'll show you around. That's showing them that we can do everything within the facility. So that's one of the things. Overall, I'm quite happy with the financial result. Roger and the team have done an exceptionally good job. The fundraising, credit goes to Roger, he's done most of it. We're getting amazing support from within the local groups. For $250,000 we got from Lotto, we got $75,000 from the Ashburton Community Trust, the old Trust Bank one, and the Lion Foundation has continued to just kept on supporting us as we need it, and we're very lucky to have a good rapport with them. Any questions?
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Roger. Questions? Julie?
Hello. Just wondering, the ticket sales that you mentioned from the touring shows from promoters, is that a national trend as well?
Yes, very much. Yeah, it is.
Into the mic, Roger, please.
Yeah, so yes, it is. It's a forum that I was on the other day. There was a lot of discussion about ticket sales and the events nationally at the moment, and they are well down. And again, it just points to the economy and the discretionary spend, I think.
Are you a bit worried that some of those promoters won't bring their shows there? Or?
Yeah, it is a concern. the big one at the moment is Showtime Australia. They bring probably 4-5 events a year. It was suggested we actually did a discount to their final show this year because he was talking about pulling it. It got across the line in the end, but it was hard work to get the bums on seats. So I haven't been talking to him again since as to what his program will be this year. But yeah, there is always a concern there when they have failures like that.
One of the issues is that some of the second tier shows are using other venues, and if you notice, the MSA is always advertising some of the lookalike shows which aren't anywhere near the quality of the shows that we will put on, but people see them, they can go there for nothing, and that is a bit of an issue we've got. But on saying that, Roger's had some good feedback over the new sound system and has had some good contact through some of the promoters, haven't you?
Yeah, like we put a post up a while ago about the new sound system going in, and there was probably 3 promoters throughout the country that came back commenting, the move we'd made was the right move. So it's quite reassuring to hear that back.
It's the same sound system as the piano's got, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I have one more question.
Okay.
The pigeons, can you just bring me up to speed on that? Are you having the same trial system that the gallery's having?
No, for probably the last 10 years, we've been investigating different scenarios to try and, resolve it. None of them work. The only thing that we do that makes a difference is we employ contractors to come in and do extermination. It's an ongoing cost. I think it's costing us about $15,000 a year to maintain, the pigeon numbers as well as clean up after them. So it's a huge cost for us at the moment, and it's the ongoing damage that they cause. I don't know what the answer is. I think the only thing that I've heard of lately is there's a drug, I think, that's being investigated that
Stops some breeding.
How you administer it, I'm not sure.
We're interested in how the art gallery goes with their way they've changed the air conditioning units, because that's an option that but we don't think we've got the room to shift their air conditioning. We've had a look at that, but we'll be interested how they get on by changing the air conditioning units.
Thanks, Julie. Richard?
The fundraising for our future show, your body is in the road of the cost of it. It's got $1. Can you just can you just perhaps elaborate on that, because it's obviously going to be quite a good fundraiser for the refurbish of the.
Yeah, so I don't want to probably put too much out there at the moment. We've got 2 fundraising events coming up. One's probably a 4-night season. The other one will be a black tie event. What the hell?
Well, don't say who's coming. It's just more. It had in the head.
Go on, tell us. Share the live. Oh, it is like
It is
we
live
are.
stream.
We are live streaming.
We are like last year we had a very successful fundraising with the boys from Cabernet. We have approached them again for a 1-night only performance, which will be a black tie red carpet event. So that's they're the 2 that we've.
So is there a price for a ticket? Because obviously you've got a lot of empty seats, and I just see it says $1 on your picture here. How do we? If I want to buy a ticket, buy a seat? How does it work?
We might be invitation only for those.
Yep.
We'll be targeting the audience.
Yeah.
No. I'm asking.
It's a way we see we can get some of the people with the money in through the doors.
Yeah.
An interesting observation, I won't mention the name, but somebody came out after they saw the Cabernet show, and they gave a donation, quite a substantial donation to us, and they said if we went overseas, we'd be paying $500 for that show. So that sort of made us sit back and realise that we should be doing something like that.
And that's good. I just thought if the people out there listening that might want to help the show, help the theatre, it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard. Have you got a timeline when your fundraising finishes? Like, is it you just going until you've got there?
Yeah, like at the moment, I would like to see by the time we're 20 years old that the fundraising side of it's finished, which is still 2 years away.
Okay.
If it takes that long, I'd be surprised. But that would probably be, the goal is to have it all wrapped up by the time we turn 20.
Thank you. Roger, the royalty for the local variety theatre, for example, Mary Poppins versus, say, a Footloose, is that substantial? And then I know that they had to put up their ticket prices for Mary Poppins, and then there wasn't bums on seats. So how does that then roll on to affecting you guys? So first of all, royalty difference between shows? Is there a heap?
There is a royalty difference between shows. You'll find that the bigger Broadway productions have a higher royalty. Footloose, I'm not sure what royalties they'll pay on that, but it can be anywhere up to 16% of your ticket price. Goes back to the company. And that overall does affect what they have to charge for the ticket, and that on flow from that is it affects the bums on seats for us. So yes, we do make money from each ticket sale, so that's the area that we miss out on.
We don't pay the royalties though, we negotiate, that's through the Variety Theatre do the royalties, and then we look at what their budget is and we basically try to work in with them to set the rental, don't we?
So, for example, for the Variety Theatre, would you have a venue hire element plus then a percentage of the ticket sales?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that for most of the shows, even your touring ones as well? Is it a similar sort of breakdown?
It is similar. Like for the local productions, they get what we call a community rate. So the venue hire is pretty much half what a commercial touring event would pay. The commercial guys basically, it's a straight out venue hire. They pay for the venue plus any of our services. With the community groups, yes, they pay a slightly less booking venue hire, but we make that up mostly through us providing the sound, the lighting, all the infrastructure, that side of it. So, it is a significant cost to them what we actually end up providing.
Yeah.
Like a VTA production, I'd say, like Mary Poppins, their budget would have been getting close to 150, 180,000. So that's a significant costs for a not-for-profit organisation to, take a risk on.
That's why the locally produced shows are much better from revenue earning.
Yeah. Deb.
Thank you for correcting yourself there. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say it sounds like you're doing great work, and I mean, for a community having a performing arts, it is really important. So thank you for doing that. And I am very excited to come for a tour and look forward to the Councillor Talent Quest.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to do karaoke, and I hear Phil's quite good at karaoke.
That could be a step too far. You may want to be on stage though, Deb, that's fine. So any other comments, gentlemen?
No, we just thank you for your continued support and may it carry on for many years,
Okay.
It's certainly an asset to the community and we get great feedback from lots of avenues, So.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. We'll see you in 6 months.
Hopefully, if we're not with Roger Dawson. You'll be standing up and I'm lying down anyway.
Good to go? Don't ask me.
I'm not as savvy as I should be for my age.
Yeah. Welcome, Alice. And Megan, is it? I presume? Because Anna's not here, so yeah, welcome along. And you may or may not know our 4 new councillors. On the right side here, we have Julie Moffat and Deb Gilkinson. And on my left here is Jeanette at the far end, Jeanette Maxwell. And our 4th councillor is an apology. So the floor is yours. Right hand side.
Cool, we all good. Right, thank you so much for allowing us the time to come in and stand in front of you, or sit in front of you today. To kick us off, we've got a quick presentation to go through, but we trust that you've all got our written copy and read all the amazing mahi we've been doing in the last 6 months. To start us off, I'm going to pass over to Megan, and she's just going to give a bit of an overview about our organisation and what we're all about, just for our new councillors that are here today.
Thanks, Alice. And firstly, congratulations to the new members. It's a pretty exciting time for you all, and I'm sure there's been 3 or 4 months of just information overload. My name's Megan Harlick. I'm the Sector Support Manager for Sport Canterbury, and while I'm based in the Christchurch office, I spend some time down here in Ashburton and the Mid-Canterbury region supporting Alice with the mahi that she does. And I just thought it was a really good opportunity to take 2 minutes at the start of the presentation to give you some insight into who we are and what our role in the sector is. So Sport Canterbury, we are one of 14 regional sports trusts, and in addition to us there are 4 investment partners in the Greater Auckland region, and that's because of the size and scope of Greater Auckland they have active, and then the 4 investment partners, Sport Auckland, Sport Waitakere, Harbour Sport and CLM Counties Manukau sit underneath them. So we are one of 14 regional sports trusts across the country. Our most significant in terms of dollar value partnership is with Sport New Zealand. But in addition to that, we have partnerships with other TAs through our region. Our region covers from Hiranui in the north down to Waimati in the south. We go across to the west coast from Fox all the way up to Greymouth, but we do not extend beyond Greymouth. So we've got geographically the largest region in New Zealand from a regional sports trust perspective. And because of that, we have 4 offices. So head office is in Christchurch in the brand new Parakiori Recreation and Sport Facility, which we are now in. It took us 14 years, but we are now in our new home, which is a pretty exciting achievement for us and occurred on the 1st of December of last year. Obviously, we have our Mid-Canterbury office here in EA Network Centre in the Sports House facility. In South Canterbury, we are housed in Arangi Stadium in Timaru, and then we have an office over in Greymouth where we have 2 staff as well. So across our 4 offices, we have approximately 45 staff. Our strategic intent is more people, more active, more often. And we do this through, our role is to actually support the play, active recreation, sport and physical activity system with a view to increasing physical activity levels across our communities. From a Sport New Zealand perspective, they speak to tamariki, 5 to 12-year-olds, rangatahi, 13 to 18-year-olds. We have priority populations, Māori and Pacifica, low socioeconomic, women and girls and disability. And we also talk a little bit about geographic priority communities, which is where we have a significant focus on a small area where we see higher than normal representation of these communities, and we try and focus the work that we're doing in these communities to achieve greater outcomes, because we can say with some evidence that less equitable access to physical activity occurs for those communities. Here in Mid-Canterbury, you guys are incredibly lucky. You've got the amazing Alice, and Alice is our community advisor for Mid-Canterbury, but she's also supported through Healthy Active Learning, which is a Sport New Zealand funded program in partnership with the Ministry of Education that we also fund into, and that's Anna Hollins, and I'll speak a little bit about that at the back end. The other roles that we have across our organisation is the Play Active Recreation and Sport team, which is fundamentally the world that my team live in. Healthy Active Learning, Healthy Families Otatahi, which at this stage is only a Christchurch-based initiative, but we're currently in negotiation with Te Whatu Ora around what the new Healthy Families program may look like for the next 4 years, with an intent to widen that to the region. And then Workplace First Aid. So that's just a little bit about who we are, to give you some insight into the world that Alice works in and what she's about to report on. So thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Cool, thanks, Megan. Yeah, that's us. She says it well. Reporting in the last 6 months is all in the written report, but I've just pulled out a couple of pieces that I can speak to you in a bit more detail to today. So from the leading component of our reporting, which looks at maintaining and developing working relationships with key stakeholders and community groups to enhance play, active, recreation and sport. Just looking at one thing we've done in the last 6 months, which was work with our EA Network Centre holiday program staff. So EA Network's leadership team came into our office, which just down the hallway, and said to us, hey, we've got these amazing facilitators that work with local tamariki with our holiday program throughout the year, and we would love to provide them some more leadership. We would love to provide them some more upskilling. So with that, Anna and I created a workshop specific to supporting facilitators working with tamariki. We looked at the Sport Integrity Commission with the team, looking at different support through child safeguarding, making sure the facilitators stay safe. Then we looked at different modules they can use, different models they can use. We looked at the main key qualities for being a productive facilitator, which ultimately just gets the best out of the tamariki, makes physical activity enjoyable for the tamariki, is inclusive, culturally appropriate, and then we did some games, but basically we're putting all that into play. After the workshop, we went through and did a bit of a survey. So ultimately what we wanted from them was whether they enjoyed it, whether they got something from it, and then ultimately it gave us a pretty decent satisfaction rating. But what we really took from that is they enjoyed it, they felt like their capability was increased, they felt their confidence was increased, they enjoyed the resources we were able to share, and that's why we want to look at doing that again in 2026. Within our organisation, we are very lucky to receive a lot of upskilling internally around working with those with disabilities, being inclusive, culturally appropriate, lots of different things that ultimately enhance play, active, recreation and sport and do a good job of doing it. So being able to pass that on and keep that capability build going is really special. And we do that with other things, and I think in the reporting period we mentioned our Cactus program, the Cactus program, which we were able to go along to and do a similar approach with tamariki there, and at that age group, and same with the Year 8 Leaders course, it's the age group that then can go along and do a similar approach with the younger tamariki in schools. So it sort of filters down. So within enabling, we look at a few different ways to do that within the sports sector, one of which is a Sector Connect. We do these multiple times through the year. Our last one in November was sort of an end of year Sector Connect where we invited sports and active rec providers in the region to come together. We brought a few people down from Christchurch, from our Christchurch office, our rangatahi lead and our sports lead, to present on a couple of key things that we were hearing from the community that they wanted more knowledge on. So one was the Sport NZ Pathways Framework, and one was Te Manawa Key IME, which is Insights, Measuring and Evaluation. So going through that with the sports codes in the room, really discussing what it takes to make a good Te Manawa application. So we're strengthening their capability to be able to apply and to be able to secure those funds, which we want them to have. Ultimately, it led to a lot of really key cross-code conversation. So opportunity where the codes can bring up issues or barriers or struggles they're having, share that with the room, and potentially someone from a different sport had something similar that they can share, and we're really learning and growing off one another. It's key networking. We have looked at our Sector Connects over the years and refined them to make sure that we can get enough people in the room. We want them to be quality over quantity, people within the space. There are lots of volunteers which may have work commitments, family commitments, so to assure that they go along and have a packed room is really crucial to us. We're also able to discuss the Keep It Positive campaign, which is rolling out and continues to do so. So in the space of providing, one of the ways we do this is through our funding, and that mainly consists with Te Manawa. So in the last 6 months within that reporting period, those were the funds that Te Manawa were able to support. One of the cool things that we did in the last round was bring that Rangatahi Te Manawa panel together. So within our organisation, we do have a very youth voice focus. So we have constant feedback and statistics, surveys that highlight the importance of having youth voice. So having youth at the table, in the room, part of the decision making does support them in actually staying active and wanting to be physically active, wanting to stay in sport. So what we did was brought that into the Te Manawa panel. Mid-Canterbury were the pilot program for that. And the reason for that was because I put my hand up and said, I know a great group of rangatahi who would be amazing at this. And that is the YAG group, the Youth Advisory Group, which actually Mr. Hooper hooked me up with. So I'm lucky for that, thank you. So yeah, great group of kids. They came away with the experience of sitting around and being on a panel. We met 2 Sundays in a row. It was a great conversation. Their ability to lead and present on the applications they look through, score these, follow our database we use to look at whether the application does meet that quality and does have those insights. The budget was done. Then we had our CEO do them up a letter to acknowledge their service with us, which I know a couple of the students then used for their university entrance applications, which was really cool to see as well. Within that, one of the big things we do in my work I do is actually working with this community and working with our different community groups. This has been something that's really flourished in the last year, and I think that's just a reflection of the fact that relationships do take time. Building quality relationships and key relationships do take time, but within Mid-Canterbury we have so many lovely community groups that do work so well together when the opportunity arises. And through that, in the last 6 months, we've really built a better connection with our youth providers, which is BASE and HYPE, 2 organisations that work specifically with rangatahi in our region. BASE put in an application to Te Manawa. They had great insights, and it was to get some sports and some better physical activity equipment for the outdoor space. What we've seen with that was an opportunity to work with them in a more hands-on approach. So we were able to actually access a one-off Insights to Active fund, which we channeled into providing this equipment, providing this resource. And that actually stemmed from participating in youth hui that take place at BASE and building those connections, having those conversations where there was a boxing bag outside, but it wasn't hung up because they couldn't hang it up. And they had an amazing basketball structure, but they had no hoop and no backboard. So from that, we were able to have those discussions. The other cool one that's come out of that is the Youth Health Navigator program. So both organisations, first time playing to Te Manawa, really encouraged through that relationship that we've built. And it was just a conversation around how the Youth Navigator program works and how they work with youth, and a lot of it was to do with that holistic health. So a lot of them are there for some mental health support, but we know that physical activity helps that as a vehicle, as a social and a connection piece, natural endorphins, and what we're able to discover is, in fact, yes, it is great, and the facilitator was able to comment on times where it has really helped, but the barrier to that is actually the funds to be able to do it and to continue doing it. So through this application, they were able to secure some funds to be able to utilise the EA Network Centre, stadium and gym, and give these youths an opportunity to engage in physical activity to support their overall health through this program. I'll say over to you, Megan, if you want to.
So what Alice has so succinctly and concisely done is articulate 6 months of work in a very short,
sorry, I'm quite fast.
very short time frame. But I think what is an opportune time for me to do is to sit back and reflect on, we sit in front of you on a 6 monthly basis, and at times Alice and I go, crikey, have we actually achieved anything over the last 6 months? because a lot of our world is around outcome and impact, and outcome and impact takes a really long time to achieve. So for Alice to be able to articulate to you the things that have actually happened within the 6 months between the 1st of July and the 31st of December demonstrates the relationships Alice has been able to build over her 2.5 years in her role. So we were really fortunate that Alice joined our team coming up 3 years in July. It's gone in the blink of an eye, but acknowledge that it has taken time for Alice to create the connections in the community. But I think the BASE project is a really good example of when we are deeply committed to a region, into a community, the impact that we can have as time passes by. And so, again, it's an acknowledgement to Ashburton District Council for your continued faith in our ability to achieve the outcomes that provide access to physical activity and therefore shared outcomes in terms of well-being for your community. It's a really good opportunity for me also just to update you on the sector, not just on Sport Canterbury's world, but what's happening in the wider Sport New Zealand physical activity space. So you may or may not be aware, like I said, we're funded by Sport New Zealand for the benefit of those of you who are new in the world, in the room. Sport New Zealand Group is the overarching umbrella organisation who are responsible for Sport New Zealand and High Performance Sport New Zealand. So a couple of years ago, on the back of a rapid review that the then Minister of Sport undertook, is we brought those two organisations together under Sport New Zealand Group. Raylene Castle is the CEO of the Sport New Zealand Group, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, as with any government entity, her contract was for 5 years and reached the conclusion of her first 5-year term at the back end of last year. The Minister of Sport has indicated to the board of Sport New Zealand that she would be required to go through an open recruitment process or an appointment process in line with what they were doing with every other government department. So on the 12th of December of last year, Raylene was informed that the job would be going to an open market, but of course was more than happy to apply should she feel she'd wanted to. At the same time, and this is part of the reason for the delay in the process, Sport New Zealand board, Raywin Lovett, who had been the chair of the Sport New Zealand board for a considerable amount of time, stepped down. So the Sport New Zealand was also without a chair. In the interim, Dwayne Cale, who was the interim chair, has now been appointed permanent chair of the Sport New Zealand board. For those of you that don't know Dwayne Cale, Paralympian, that's probably what he's best known for, but a significant servant of sport and recreation in New Zealand, and has been a member of the Sport New Zealand board for a number of years. So from our perspective, a fantastic appointment because it provides some continuity, especially in a time when we're not sure what the new CE appointment may look like. So we're really happy that Dwayne was able to secure the chair position for Sport New Zealand Group. Timeline for the new CE appointment is May. So we will know by the middle of this year who the new CE is, and at this point in time we're unsure whether or not Raylene will be going through that process. She indicated that she was going to take the summer break to reflect on the opportunities in front of her. Probably the other thing that it's mindful of me to bring to your attention is, you will have heard, but probably only through the lens of rugby, cricket and netball, that there's a little bit of upheaval and chaos in our national sports organisations, so our NSO world at the moment. Currently there are 5 or 6 NSOs without CEOs. And or with interim or acting CEs in position. We also have, in addition to that, 3 NSOs who appointed CEs at the back of last year. So we have a very new and chaotic system that we are working within right now. I think that's a reflection of 2 or 3 things in our sector. One is the fiscal environment and the significant number of challenges that face our CEs, the tension that exists between community sport and high performance sport, and the commercialisation of sport and professionalisation of sport within this country plays a huge part in terms of the longevity in life and the job satisfaction for the CEs in our sector. But also every role has a lifetime, and a number of those roles had been filled for a period of time. So you add to that the public pressure and the fact that sport sits in the eye of the public all the time, so it's not unusual for this to happen. It's just that there's 3 key ones right now, so that's kind of just a little bit of context for you. You may also be aware, or not, that Sport Canterbury undertakes a spaces and places role. So we receive funding from Sport New Zealand to advocate and influence for the development and maintenance of places and spaces that provide equitable access to physical activity. And we had an Our Spaces plan that was due for renewal, that we've gone through a renewal process with the support of RSL Consulting. And talking to Sean, who's our Spaces and Places lead, that will be back in Council's hands in the next week to 10 days in a draft form in Ashburton District Council through Alice and Sean have contributed to what that plan may look like. From our perspective, it's just a document that provides an overview as to around what exists within your communities and our wider space, and opportunities for our sports sector to partner with or understand access, because at the same time a number of our sports at a national level are going through facility plans as well. So for example, netball and Netball New Zealand are going through a facility plan process right now to understand how many netball courts they've got, how many of them are indoors, how many of them are outdoors, and what are the need, and are they actually in the right place. So that, when they're presented with our plan, makes their job a lot easier. So again, thank you for your contribution to that work, and we're about to release the draft back to you. Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot in the media about the declining physical activity rates of our young people. And I know when I presented to you at the back end of last year, we were still waiting on some data from Sport New Zealand through the Active New Zealand survey, but it's still, we were getting an indication that it wasn't painting a great picture. However, Active New Zealand has finally, or Sport New Zealand has finally released their Active New Zealand data. And at a high level, there's some really fantastic news for us that vindicates the work that we've been doing in our sector with the support of organisations such as yourselves. We have seen an increase for the first time since the pandemic. We are back to pretty much pre-pandemic levels in terms of the amount of physical activity for our tamariki and our rangatahi. Our tamariki have reached our pre-pandemic levels. Our rangatahi are slightly under but are increasing, and somehow our adults are ahead of where they were in terms of meeting the recommended weekly guidelines for physical activity since pre-pandemic, which is outstanding. So when we think about adults, we talk about population older than 18. You think back, so if we take a 20-year-old, they were 15 pre-pandemic, so we're starting to see some real shift and some outcomes and impact of the work that we're doing at a grassroots level. So it's really exciting for us to see that young people are recovering to their pre-pandemic levels of physical activity. So for an adult, that's 150 minutes of physical activity per week. For young people, it's actually measured in terms of physical activity per day. And so to see that our young people are participating in, I think it's 60 minutes per day of physical activity, and that can be incidental as well as structured physical activity, so PE in the classroom, active transportation to and from school. So again, it's that importance around equitable access to safe spaces to recreate. Some of the work that Alice has been doing alongside some of the community groups here, for example, the bike skills part, are going to be a really significant contribution to these figures. So I thought that was a nice story to tell. Unsurprisingly, the barriers to physical activity have not changed. Affordability issues are continuing to grow in the current climate, along with confidence, the confidence of our young people to participate in physical activity, connection to space and place, and cultural identity are often seen as some of the barriers to being physically active. The gap between boys and girls is starting to close, specifically in some age groups, which is really neat because we've always had this lag between girls being physically active relative to their male counterparts. But what we are seeing is that we're starting to apply a cultural lens across some of our data as well. And so while New Zealand European are the most physically active young people, followed by Māori and Pacifica, there is a real drop then to our Asian community. And our migrant communities as well. So that's something we as a trust are starting to explore around what is our role. And is it to do with inequitable access? Is it to do with lack of confidence, and how can we support that? But just some basic food for thought. What we know is that young people are often physically active through school and in the school gates. So how can we continue to work with kura to create active schools? As a sector, what is our role in building connection to spaces and places? And I'd like to acknowledge the Ashburton District Council, for example, with your mini golf course at the EA Network Centre and the connection that that has to your community. And each of those holes is linked back to Ashburton, so it creates a sense of connection. So that little things like that make a significant difference. Whānau centre activation and low-cost access to physical activity is a really critical thing that we need to be considering, and I think about the Bike Skills Park and how that's an end-to-end, age-to-stage opportunity where families can come together and be physically active in multiple ways. Affordability and access opportunities such as equipment, libraries, is something for us to consider, along with technology as an enabler as opposed to a barrier to physical activity. So how can we engage with technology to actually create motivation to be physically active as opposed to seeing it as a significant barrier to physical activity? So those are just some of the things that are on our radar at the moment. And just a wee reminder that Incorporated Societies registration has to be done by the 5th of April. As a sector, we're doing okay. We've worked really hard at that regional sports level to support them in terms of getting their re-registration done and providing them with the templates to support their members, but we are aware that some are still lagging. I do have a degree of confidence that regional sports organisations have a really good understanding where each of their clubs are at. Right the way down to, for example, one of my RSOs the other day handed me a spreadsheet. Here's all of my clubs, here's where they're at from an SGM perspective, here's where their constitution's at, and these are the dates each of them will re-register. So some sports are really onto it, so I have a degree of confidence, but it's just something that we're aware of. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to do today is touch on, at this time of year, we're always asked to present to you as part of our reporting a business case for funding for the next 12 months. And I think it's a really good opportunity to again acknowledge the investment and partnership that Ashburton District Council has had with Sport Canterbury actually for over 30 years in some way, shape or form, and the support that that has provided us in order to be able to then support your community to become more physically active and therefore have impact on the wellbeing and health of your community. We report to you on a 6-monthly basis, and in that report we talk a lot about our outputs. We achieved X number of courses that we delivered. We facilitated 14 student development coaching courses. We led 3 activations in Ashburton College as part of ActiveAs, whatever it might be. Outputs are one thing. What we put at the centre of what we do is what outcomes are we trying to achieve as a result of those outputs, and if those are the outcomes we're trying to achieve, what is the impact that's going to have? The problem with that is that extends well beyond a 12-month investment period. It's really hard for us to be able to come back on an annual basis and report to you on outcomes and impact as well as outputs that we're achieving in that period of time. And I think a couple of really good examples, the EA Network Centre opportunity that came up to support staff, the impact that that is able to have on the young people that are part of those holiday programs. While the output was delivered, we're not going to see the impact for a period of time, but actually that activation only occurred as a result of 12 to 18 months of Alice sitting alongside your EA Network leadership team and developing that trust in the work that we're doing. So what we're trying to do is balance this tension between outputs, which are part of our reporting requirements to you as a funder of us, alongside outcome and impact, which is actually where our world is, because that's where the change and those system levers are able to occur that lead to sustainable change. If we only focus on outputs, system change isn't going to occur. We're just going to drop in and drop out, and we're really, really driven by providing system level change and working in those invisible spaces which are going to lead to sustainable opportunities, not just 2 Manawa funded activations once off, for example. So we've actually in our documentation and request to you this time is seeking support on a 3-yearly basis as opposed to an annual basis. That provides us with a degree of security and sustainability in terms of our organisation to continue the investment that we're putting into this region. Your investment enables us to have Alice as a community advisor here, and pre-Alice, the amazing Jan Cochrane, who you will all be aware of, I'm sure. Sport Canterbury then made a strategic decision to place additional human resource into Mid-Canterbury and to provide additional support into your region, and that's through our Healthy Active Learning program. So our Healthy Active Learning program, like I said earlier on, is a partnership between the Ministry of Education, Sport New Zealand and Sport Canterbury, where we work with kaiako teachers to upskill them in the delivery of the health and physical education curriculum to improve the experience that young people are having in the classroom, and in lunch breaks and morning tea times, because we know that the better a young person's experience at that age, the more likely they are to continue engagement with physical activity. The strategic decision we made to put a healthy active learning role in the Mid-Canterbury region is at our cost, and it goes against the criteria that Sport New Zealand provided us. The reality of the situation is that role should probably sit in Christchurch, but we felt that this was a strategic region that we wanted to continue to support in more ways than just what we're able to do through a community advisor role, which is very much around play, recreation and sport. Excuse me. In addition to that, as you know, we're in a really tight fiscal environment and our costs are increasing on a regular basis. So to be able to have a degree of certainty that we're able to commit to all of those inputs into your region would certainly help us and would be much appreciated. So that's the reason why, instead of coming this year for an annual investment partnership with you, that we've asked you to consider investing in us with an extended period of time. As we move forward, we believe that over the last few years we've started to demonstrate the value to your community of having Sport Canterbury, not just Anna and Alice, but also the extended reach of Sean from Mid-Canterbury, my rangatahi lead, my sport development lead, my play lead, my tamariki lead, our communications team down here, I think puts us in a position now to start to have those wider conversations with you. Notwithstanding, we acknowledge again the investment that you do put into us, and thank you for your support of us and your continued contribution to us being able to achieve the outcomes that we do, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Megan and Alice. Excellent report, well done. I find it interesting you're talking about funding when we're going through a budgeting process, actually. Had our first meeting yesterday. So that's all in front of us as well. Okay, questions, councillors. Julie.
Hello, thank you for coming along today, and it was very informative for new councillors, thank you. So when you talk about extended funding, what period of time are you looking for and how much money are you looking at?
Yeah, so up until this point in time we've been funded on an annual basis, and the exact figures are in the papers that we provided to you. So what we're looking for is a 3-year investment, which pretty much lines up also with the commitment we've made to Sport House in the short term. We're looking for an investment that is, and these figures are off the top of my head because I don't have the document in front of me right now, it's a percentage increase on what we received last year, and then a CPI increase of approximately 5% to reflect some of our additional costs aligned with the charges that we're now also covering from an EA Network Centre perspective year on year up until 3 years from now.
Okay, thank you. It was just for the benefit of those who may be listening at home. And so with you mentioned before, the outputs. So you have the outputs, and then after that, is there some system of you keeping in touch with people who have been through your courses or whatever? Because I presume that's how you measure.
Yeah. Without wanting to bore you too much, we have this most incredible staff member in our organisation who is our insights monitoring and evaluation lead, and has worked tirelessly with all of our staff to ensure that we have processes in place not only to capture the here and now data, but that we can go back and we can capture 6-month and 12-month post-activation data, which looks at things not only such as how much is your confidence increased, but we ask questions along the lines of what is the thing that you're going to take from this course that you're most wanting to implement, and we go back and say, you said you were going to implement this, are you still able to do that? What impact is it having on your delivery or your coaching or your whatever it is? What are the barriers to being able to do that? What other training? And we have all of those processes in place. So pretty much for everything we do, we have an evaluation plan around it.
One more question, just out of curiosity for myself. You say that the levels of activity for young people across the board are up since pre-pandemic, COVID. Is that, do you think, because the fear around social interactions come down? Do you know why?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think there's a little bit of that, but to be perfectly honest, the jump back into sport, for example, as soon as some of those restrictions were lifted, happened quite quickly. I think what we're starting to see is sports and physical activity organisations are starting to respond better to the needs that are in front of them in terms of what young people actually want to engage with and in. We're starting to see organisations move away from some of those more traditional delivery models to looking at modified games. We're seeing increased access to spaces and places We're seeing a massive uptake in things like mountain biking, scootering, rollerblading, activities that wouldn't normally be reflected and recorded. And we're also seeing through the HEL work, so HEL has been in the schools now for over 4 years. We're starting to see the benefit of improved physical education, curriculum understanding and delivery within the schools have an impact on young people's perception. The other thing Active New Zealand Survey did this time for the first time ever is they started to draw correlations between a young person's perception of physical activity and also their significant parent or adult in the house. And what they've done is they've actually identified that the perception or view that an adult has of physical activity reflects exactly back through the young person. So if you have an adult in a house who values physical activity and being physically active, that is more likely to be reflected in the young person's experience of being physically active, but it's the first time that data has been collected. So that's a pretty cool insight also in terms of enabling us to support some of the decisions we're making around whānau-based support.
Thank you.
Carol.
Just a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regards to green prescriptions, is there any update on that, or are you still lobbying for that, or have we got a future for that? I mean, there's still a wee bit of a gap, isn't there?
Yeah. So green prescription 4 years ago, Te Whatu Ora required holders of the green prescription contracts to reapply. Sport Canterbury lost the contract here and in Christchurch, but we kept the contract in South Canterbury, so we are still the deliverer of green prescription, and it's the form you probably know, in the South Canterbury region. A handful of RSTs retained their green prescription contracts, and the RST network, which is a collaborative relationship between 17 of the 18, remember I talked before about 14, plus 4 is 18, so 17 of the 18 RSTs have come together to collaborate as part of what we call the RST network under a Strengthen and Adapt project, and one of the pillars of that is from an advocacy perspective, and we've just completed a significant piece of work looking at the value of green prescription sitting within regional sports trusts to the health sector, so that when those contracts come up for renewal, the RSTs are in a better position should they choose to apply or go through the RFP process for a green prescription contract. When we lost that contract in the Greater Christchurch region, it was picked up by a different delivery organisation who changed the criteria and opportunities for people to get a green prescription, and it has limited quite significantly, and I think that's one of the things that we will be looking at as we review where we're heading as an organisation.
Phil.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation, ladies. It was really good. Alice, you produced an excellent video around sideline behaviour not so long ago, and I just wondered, as well as the upheaval in netball and rugby, etc. at the moment, there's also a fair bit of coverage around boxing and cycling and coaching and things. So I wondered if that was on your radar and whether you guys worked with coaches at all, or were perhaps planning another one of your excellent videos around coaching instead of sideline behaviour.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Phil. Yeah, we have a meeting booked for, or a connect booked for March with the sports that are involved in leading the Keep It Positive campaign. The sports that are involved in leading it, it's a community approach, so it's anyone participating in any sport, play, active recreation, movement, still the same key guidelines, but the key sport codes that are participating and coming together, and then through that we will gather what their goals are, what their aims are, what they're hearing from their specific codes. They're the ones who get that feedback and then they share it with us. We'll then take an approach from there, but we will be looking to do another video. It was a really good hit, and as much as you've said I produced it, I can't take full credit for that. We had our comms team come down and come along with me to the different codes to get that pulled together. But yeah, we'll be looking to do another video, and a part of the sideline behaviour campaign, we do speak specifically to coaches. Our quotas, let the coaches coach, and then what sits under that is a lot of structures that we share with our sports codes that they can then share with their participants, those supporters, those involved, and that key messaging is the same throughout, but yeah, specifically for the coaches. I think you wanted to follow that up.
Because there's kind of two parts to that question. The Keep It Positive is a community-led campaign, to Alice's point, and it's across the entire Sport Canterbury region. So we rolled it out, we've kind of gone up the country. And we've just last week launched the same campaign with our codes up in Christchurch. And Alice is right, that's been very much driven, not specifically by a single incident or event, but our commitment to good people, good programs, good environments, which you guys may recall previously was known as Balance is Better. So what we do is we work with organisations to ensure that they've got good people, which means that their coaches are developed in a way that the athlete is put at the centre of their thinking. Good programs, that they provide programs, competitions and activations that allow for all motivations, whether that be competitive or participation, and age and stage appropriate, and good environments, which is the sideline stuff. It's ensuring that we are working with codes to protect our young people, our coaches and our officials from unnecessary harm. So that will continue to grow. And to Alice's point, it will grow based on the feedback we're receiving from the codes in this region. That will shape our next steps for Mid-Canterbury, which will be very different to anything we do or anything else because it's locally led. In response to the other part of your question, the integrity stuff, probably not for us to comment on national sport organisation issues right now, but we work really closely with our regional sports organisations to ensure that they have in place appropriate measures from safeguarding of athletes all the way through to processes and procedures should something happen, that they are protected and that their participants are protected.
That's also discussed in a lot of our coaching workshops we do, and we've currently got for the year ahead 2 coaching workshops booked in, one 101 and one coaching women and girls, alongside with our student coaching program that will roll out this year. So that's with our sports lead up in Christchurch. Serena actually comes into the region to work alongside me with the rangatahi and the coaches, volunteers or paid in our region to upskill them so they are in a better position to understand the codes of conduct and everything that fits into that space.
Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Megan, for your time coming along. Looks as though we're out of questions and we're probably out of time, to be fair. So that brings the session to a close, and we'll be back at 1 o'clock for a council meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.